On this episode of IT Unplugged, I sit down with Rebecca from New North, and we talk about how we can widen the funnel to accelerate growth and retain and attract talent in Wisconsin.
At M2 Technology, we're on a mission to make IT accessible to everyone. Join us on our journey to demystify the ever-evolving world of business technology. Are you ready to get unplugged?
Welcome back to IT Unplugged. I'm Brandon.
I'm Rebecca.
Rebecca, it's great to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I know we've talked a little bit about this for a while. It's just taken a little bit to connect. But now we're here, right?
Now we're here. Let's get to it.
Yeah. So, Rebecca, you are the Vice President of Talent Development at New North. For people that might not be aware of what New North is, would you mind just kind of giving us a little explanation?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here. So, New North is a regional economic development organization. We're one of 9 in the state of Wisconsin, and our region covers 18 counties, so 25% of the state. So think Sheboygan to Shawano, Marquette to Marinette, Fond du Lac to Florence, everywhere in between. We are really kind of centered in that the northeast corner, with Green Bay kind of as the central point. Mm-hmm. And then what we do from our regional economic development perspective is we work really closely with all of our local partners, so chambers of commerce, the county, EDOs, other nonprofit organizations, business partners, to really look at how are we promoting this part of the state from a marketing quality of life standpoint. How are we engaging with new business development, foreign direct investment? How are we making sure that we have the workforce that we need? How are we helping to support that entrepreneurial community so that we're helping to build those founders and those small business owners that really drive the economy in our local, especially our rural communities, and then just engaging in different ways that we can not only support our region, but the state of Wisconsin as a whole.
Wow, that's a lot. Yeah, that's a big encompassing mission.
All with a team of 6.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. So what drew you to the New North? Like, what made you kind of go, hey, this is something I want to dedicate my time and talents to?
Yeah, so I was with the Greater Green Bay Chamber for a few years, and when Paul Jaden was tapped to be the Secretary of Commerce, we had a couple conversations, invited me to join what eventually evolved into the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, and I worked there for almost 9 years. During that time, Barb Lemieux, who's our current president and CEO, was the Vice President of Business and Community Development, and she took a role with New North. And she gave me a call one day and said, can I steal you away, Rebecca? And I said, Barb, you know my heart lies in the New North region. I'm born and raised in Crivets, so this is my home area. So it was really just a great opportunity to take what I was doing at a state level and really hone in and focus here on the New North region, which is home for me.
Yeah, no, that's so neat. Yeah. So yeah, you've gotten even more specific.
My miles are less on my car.
Well, that's good. And kind of speaking about specifics, one of the things that's interesting is New North has multiple industry alliances, right? So digital, healthcare, construction, and a few more. I'm just kind of curious, why have you guys kind of niched into specific verticals, and what do they all do?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. So my specific role with New North is the Vice President of Talent Development. I work closely with Jason Mathwig on our team, who leads our Construction Alliance and our Digital Alliance. And we're really looking at all of the different ways that you engage with not only building a future workforce, but how are we connecting and engaging with those individuals already in some of those specific areas. So the new Digital Alliance, the new Construction Alliance are pretty strong verticals for us when we're building out a few others. But it's really about how can we bring together the businesses in that specific sector to look at what are some common challenges. And instead of everyone creating their own solution, we're collectively coming together or identifying what are those challenges, how can we all work together to build that talent, to engage with that talent, and to recruit new talent into our region. But then also that just connection and networking that happens. So if you're in that field, and you're not connected with others outside of your own organization, you might not know all the great things that are happening. You're not building that community around you. So our alliances really help us kind of drive that engagement. And then we're looking at those industry sectors that are really kind of the foundation of the economy here in Northeast Wisconsin. So construction is one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing industry right now in the New North region. IT, digital, cuts across every sector, right? So it's that horizontal as well as a vertical. And then we're most recently just launched a new healthcare alliance. So how are we looking at the needs for that healthcare workforce, not only now, but into the future?
Yeah. So that's okay. So it's in the name, alliance, right?
Alliance.
A lot of people working together.
Exactly.
I'm just kind of curious, like, would businesses ever go, hey, I'm kind of a little bit nervous about sharing what's going on in my specific business with all my other people that are also in this business, because sometimes you're vying for the same customers or different things like that. So how do you kind of overcome that where a business owner feels like really comfortable with?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to kind of the heart and soul of our region is collaboration.
Yeah.
And when you understand that we're stronger together, it helps people put aside some of those anxious moments of, well, I don't want to share my, secret recipe that I have. But it also is the understanding that if we stock the pond, you might not pull the biggest fish, but you're going to pull more fish out of the pond by working together to get to those common areas of need. Yeah,
that totally makes sense. I've, because I've kind of pondered that before, and some business owners have essentially said, like, hey, there's so much business growing in these areas, and they're not just all like around this little area. They're from all over the U.S. and international as well. So the opportunity far outweighs anything about like, hey, we kind of do it this way, we do it this way.
Yeah, and you're going to have those foundational skills, right? And then within each company, that's where you set yourself as that differential, right? What are you doing internally to continue to grow, from a leadership development, and continue to grow skills development? How are you creating those pathways for them to grow within that organization and to really evolve? And that's where that secret sauce of your own business can stay secret, but you're still bringing in that collective talent to be able to grow.
Yeah. So let's say a business owner is listening right now. What is something that you might kind of tell them is a benefit of joining, or maybe kind of get them over that hump, and where could they get started?
Yeah, I think, what we see with the Alliance, again, is you have that collective power to be able to scale opportunities. For example, the Construction Alliance launched a year and a half ago their Construction Leadership Academy. So what this is, it's taking individuals that are maybe just on that front line, ready to go from just being a skilled tradesperson into the foreperson, and they're really, really good at masonry, but they've never had to lead anybody before. So you can move somebody into that position, but are you setting them up for success? So we were able to start the Construction Leadership Academy, which identifies those, people that have that high-performing opportunity, to get them into a training where they can learn some of those different leadership skills, so that when they do move up into those different roles, they're able to better lead those teams. They're feeling more confident in and of themselves. You have greater outcomes from a business perspective. And we're able to do that collectively. You might not be able to scale that one-off from each individual organization, or some of our smaller construction companies aren't going to be able to do as much as our larger construction companies. So this way, by doing it as an alliance, we've now created that opportunity where you're not only learning about leadership skills, but by bringing in people from outside of your organization, you're actually learning about what are some other opportunities, right? So how do you help people better understand, oh, I see you're doing that over there. We might be able to do a little bit of this, or have you thought about that? So it's just that cross pollination, but just growing your network and that opportunity to be able to get more insights from others.
Yeah, super collaborative and setting people up for success, not having to redo everything on your own every time.
Exactly, right? And you want to make sure people have those skill sets, and as an individual, if you want to advance in that career, being able to get those opportunities is just really tremendous.
So I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but that's the first time I found out about the Construction Leadership Manager. Like, what's your favorite program or thing that you guys have kind of created that you've seen make a big impact?
I would say that there's two. One, the Construction Leadership Academy, really, we've gone from running one cohort to two cohorts a year for that. So just being able to bring those individuals to see the desire for individuals to want to grow in that leadership is really cool. The other thing very similar in the Digital Alliance space is they established a mentorship network. And this is for investors only, but how do you take individuals that are emerging leaders, but could use a mentor to how do I grow in this space?
Yeah.
But we're able to take an individual from one company and pair them with a mentor outside of their organization. And there's an agreement across partners that we're not going to poach the talent,
Yep.
or this is really that leadership development piece. But it really has created this community and this network of practice that people understand they don't need to leave
Yeah.
to find opportunities here in the New North region. We have tremendous tech opportunities, speaking from the IT, digital perspective. We have tremendous opportunities across multiple industry areas. But if all you see is what's in front of you, you don't get exposed to what those other opportunities are, then you might want to leave and go somewhere else when we can keep and retain people and grow them here.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's a perfect pivot into the New Digital Alliance. It started back in 2014. I'm curious, what kind of problems were you trying to solve when you created that? And then how has that, I guess, kind of evolved as well, because things are changing so fast.
They are changing fast. So 2014, it really was about how do we raise awareness? Again, we just talked about if you don't know what's going on, especially in our region, which is so heavily dominated by manufacturing. So if all you think is they make things there, but you don't understand that there's all these other career opportunities within that place that makes things, then you don't know that you have career potential here in Northeast Wisconsin.
Sure.
So it was really about how do we raise awareness that A, there are opportunities here, and then B, how do we better assist our schools with that support network? So there were some programs in the early stages of it was originally the IT Alliance and now it's the Digital Alliance. So the early stages of the IT Alliance was really about computer science. How do we increase that knowledge on computer science? How do we help more teachers have the skills that they need and or be connected to professionals who have those skills but can bring them into the classroom? There was a program from Microsoft called TEALS that we were very fortunate. We were one of the very first Microsoft Tech Spark regions in the U.S. So to be able to have that support from such a tech giant, to be able to go in to help more teachers get their master's degrees so they can teach that course.
Sure.
But then also be connected with IT professionals was really important. And as technology has changed, it's been fast and furious. What we saw too was the schools were starting to take care of some of that themselves. There was more and more resources that were becoming available for them. And the Digital Alliance had an opportunity to kind of take a step back and let's reevaluate where are we, what do we want to do? And what they really focused on was this retention of existing workforce. And then by that retention piece, it grows your attraction piece, right? If you're retaining talent, people are like, why do you want to be there?
Why are you still
and
there?
And then like it attracts new talent when you retain your existing talent. So they've had that opportunity to say, let's kind of check in, let's see where we're at. They've been, that's where the mentorship program kind of evolved out of, us from that opportunity. We had an opportunity, there was a changeover with the Digital Alliance, the original executive for that retired to move into a different role. We were able to bring in Jason, and he comes from an academic background, so he just brought some different perspective as well that helped them think about different ways to look at programming and engagement. And now they're looking at how do we continue to grow the network, how do we continue to have this community of practice, but how do we also make sure we're bringing in people to talk about kind of key areas.
Yeah, well, I think that's like part of it, right? You have industry leaders, you have educators, workforce development, that combination. When all those things are clicking, what kind of benefit does that bring compared to just like the one aspect?
Well, everything, in order to be successful, you have to have all those legs of the stool, right? Otherwise, you're kind of wobbly. And again, you can scale those opportunities. So we're able to say, this is an 18-county region. How do we serve all portions of our 18 counties, from our most rural communities to areas that are mostly manufacturing to areas that, have a lot of good things going on. How do you scale those opportunities into other areas? And that's where that alliance piece comes together.
Yeah.
Because it does bring in all of those different forces. Right, so we should do this. We want to train here. Well, if workforce development is saying, well, there's this really great program for you, instead of creating something new, how do you connect into what's already existing?
Sure.
Because otherwise you have, oh, well, we're trying to do this, and now you have competing opportunities. So this helps us kind of scale those opportunities. It helps us kind of bring in that knowledge of what already is existing, and then to see where those gaps are and how can we fill them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the gaps that we see is every once in a while is essentially the IT worker shortage a little bit. Are you seeing that, and how do we combat this? Because I remember teaching IT way back in the day, and it was kids would job out, you know what I mean, from technical colleges, because it was just like, yep, we need them. And I'm a little bit surprised that it's still, you know what I mean, like it's still at that point.
Yeah, well, short answer is yes. Everyone's seeing it, not only in IT, but across, all different sectors. And part of that is just your demographics cliff. Our high number of retirements, our low number of people coming in. So it's definitely a thing that we're tracking and trying to make sure that we're, keyed in on. I think where we are doing really well is we have such great educational partners across the higher ed institutions, There's 20 different institutions in the New North region, and they're all looking at how can we look at education in a way that helps people get into those roles faster, but that they also have those skills, those credentials that carry with them so that they can, grow as an individual, not just support and fill the role at the organization. So there's that. And then I think the piece that we've talked about before is that retention and that networking piece. So we have people here, but are they aware of those opportunities? How are we making sure that they're aware of those opportunities? That connects to the work we do through the regional career pathways. So how are we educating our kids coming through K-12 with the opportunities that are here? How are we connecting them into youth apprenticeships opportunities? Digital is still a really high youth apprenticeship request with a very small number of businesses that are willing to bring a student in.
Sure.
So you can't solve your talent problem if you're not willing to engage with the talent. Simple. And there's some challenges, Like, it's not like, oh, just come on in, it's an easy thing. Yeah. But there's ways that you can do it, and it's just, you have to be committed. You can't keep saying you have a problem without looking, well, did we try the solution? And just saying, well, it won't work for us because of security reasons. Well, hospitals bring in youth apprentices all the time, and there's HIPAA laws that go there. So you can figure it out. There's different ways to do it. So I think I started rambling, and now I lost my train of thought.
That makes sense. As people in the IT digital space, like, we can do better by addressing that talent need, like, in the beginning, when the kids are in high school and getting involved or different things like that. And in all, like, even looking at us, we brought on a couple interns now, and we didn't do that before, but we can see the value.
And it's not easy, right? It's not to say, like, oh, just have a YA or an intern. Yeah. Like, you have to do it intentionally and meaningfully. They're not just there to shred papers or do any of that stuff. So you want to make sure that they're having a positive experience.
Well, yes.
And some of that then is, if you're new to those type of things, it's, what are those best practices? Who can I reach out to? And that's where, like, the alliance is going to give you a network of people to say, oh, well, how are you doing your YA? How would I get started with bringing somebody into my organization to do an internship or a youth apprenticeship? Even a job shadow. Like, what are those different things? Youth apprentice, like, if we're talking like K-12, youth apprentice is like the creme de la creme. You don't have to start there. Start with a job shadow. Start with an externship. So invite a teacher in to see how things work. Because that teacher is going back to the classroom, and now instead of having one student impacted, you're helping a teacher who's now going to go back and impact every student that they interact with. So if they don't know how it works, they're going to share either limited or what they think how it works. But if they are able to see it face to face.
I've never heard of that before.
Externships.
Externships
with your teachers.
Okay, so with teachers, that's what an
with
externship.
Teachers, do it with your teachers because they're going to be the ones that are talking with students day in and day out. Think about that. How many in high school?
Oh yeah,
It can be a small high school. You're still 100 kids.
Oh, 100%. As a previous teacher, and I saw why people that managed all. There's usually one person that's managing all the kids. There's no way that you can if you're not interested in that topic, sell that topic. You're like, I don't like IT. So when I tell you,
I don't understand.
You I'm sure you go there and you type on the computer. You need a little bit better pitch than that usually to get kids. So
there's opportunities there, right? So just thinking outside the box of what are different ways to engage.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might not be with the, from a K-12 perspective, the student. It's with the teacher.
Really interesting.
Or it's with, I bet you employ parents. So how are you engaging the parents to talk to their kids about the different ways so just thinking outside the box sometimes gives you some different perspectives as well.
Yeah, I love that, especially at a company like our other company, M2 Logistics, has many, 2 generations working there because it's just like a family-owned company and people want to go there.
And that's that culture, right? So that's that retention and the attraction piece that comes with it.
That's a good idea. Now I get to bug everybody.
You're like, just go watch the podcast.
Yeah, you all need to talk to your kids about IT. Here's a handout. No, I'm just kidding.
I think, the other thing from the broader New North perspective is we have a program called New North Hires Heroes, and it is an intentional desire to recruit transitioning service members and the military-connected family to the New North region. So whether they have a connection to New North or they learn about the Wisconsin from one of our partners, and then we're able to connect them in with employment opportunities. But when you think about an industry, the military as an industry, individuals that are engaging in technology at a very high level, what are those opportunities then to say, how do we connect with those service members or the military spouse to connect them in with our career opportunities to be able to bring that different perspective in as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to put something in there as we need to revisit this because that's we have previous service members that are working for us at M2 Technology, and in all honesty, they did IT stuff in the military. They came back, and as an MSP IT consultant, you need to be strict and disciplined
and able to execute on the mission and the things in front of you.
And you look at that and you're like, oh wow, how do we hire more of this type?
New North Hires Heroes. Whoa. That's how we hire more.
There we go. That's where we look into the camera.
New North Hires Heroes.
There it is, right?
So we've actually, we first started engaging in 2020 with a business. It was called Mission Wisconsin at the time. They're now called Semper Forward. Mission Wisconsin is a portion of that. And they, as a veteran-owned business, they actively go to the military installations. They're talking with service members that are going through that transition process. So for those that don't know, a service member getting out up to a year and ahead of time, they start the transition process so that they're better prepared to be able to connect it. So as Semper Forward is having those conversations, they're identifying individuals that want to be maybe connected with Wisconsin, and then as a community partner, we're saying, we want to connect you to the careers and communities here. So being able to then share those resumes and to make those warm introductions to our business partners is a really great way. To date, we've had 98 veterans that have moved here with their families, so it's almost 350 individuals that have moved to the New North region through this program. And when you think about that, not only economic impact, but the community impact. You have families moving in, you have more students in your schools, right? You're bringing in this opportunity for us to be able to be better connected from that perspective. It's really exciting.
Yeah. That seems like...
It's my passion area.
Yeah. I feel like I have one more question, but I almost don't want to ask it because I'm like, that seems like a great ending. But I'm gonna because of the clicks. And we have to talk about AI because that's what happens every single time, right? So, how is New North kind of navigating AI right now? And you have a big portion of workforce development, education, and AI seems like it is just taking over everything. So how do How do you implement that stuff? How do you stay on top of it? And then how do you start training people for jobs that don't exist yet?
Those are so many great questions. So I'll start with this. Internally, we at New North are a team of 6 or 7, depending on, we're down 1, we're going to be hiring somebody. We look at different ways that we can better leverage AI in our own work. And then by doing that, we're able to be more confident in how we're talking with others and being able to address those issues. We have a close relationship with Microsoft, so just being able to understand what those resources are that are available and then push that information out, because a lot of it, there's so much information that you can be drowning in the information. So just being, thoughtful about how can we share information, people can come to see that. But then the Digital Alliance has taken the perspective of, how do we bring together industry leaders, people who are curious, people who want to know more, to hear what's the current state of what's going on. So we're not looking to solve the specific AI challenge, right? Because you can't train for AI. Because by the time you get the training down, it's changed and evolved and is growing into something different. What you can do, though, is how do you bring people together? How do you identify, okay, here's how we're using it, here's what we're seeing, here's where we see where we can have more efficiencies, here's where it's evolving maybe some career opportunities. Right now we're going to be looking at, server people who can, I can't even think of the technical term, but, right, so people who can take care of the servers in the data centers that are coming right here, that's going to drive, the data centers drive AI. So you have all of these different things where you have to start thinking differently. And I know there's been some technical colleges and some of our universities that have taken on AI as a, with a degree. Which is great, because I think it's that theoretical understanding of what drives AI, how do you make sure you can do it. But then from a practical application standpoint, it's really that power that we have of convening and connecting people to have those conversations. And then when you hear how other people are using it, you start to think, how could I apply that to the problem that I'm trying to solve? And then go forward from there.
Yeah, I like that approach better, because like you said, things are happening so quick, and just having the correct mindset around it. We'll probably, we were having this conversation before. It's like, just because you're a person that's grown up with AI or something like that doesn't mean you're automatically going to be great with it. You need to have a mindset around it to do the problem solving.
You have to be willing to fail forward. Right. So
absolutely.
I'm going to try it, and I'm not going to get it right the first time, and that's okay, because now I've learned what I need to do. And honestly, you just talk to it like it's a toddler. Like, I would like you to pick up your shoes. I would like you to put them up. Right. So when you think about how you prompt some of these agents, but then to understand, I can do that, but then to build an agent within our system, I don't have that skill set. Right. So I have to think harder, and I have to do some research. I have to figure out those different ways, because I know that can help us solve some problems. And they're not problems, right? But how does it make us more efficient? But I have to know how to do it. So it's just taking the time to figure that out, to maybe test it on a smaller challenge of how can we do this, so that you can figure out, did I do this right? What do I need to adjust going forward? And then be able to apply it. So it's really just having that innovative mindset to think about it.
I agree. I was having
don't be afraid. It's not going to bite you.
It's not going to bite you. The people that are in it, when they start talking about it right now, is interesting, because I was just having a conversation, and they said, in a few months you'll be able to do this. And I remember when they used to say, in a few years, in this, and I'm like, wait, in a few months I'm going to be able to do, and it was a super technical thing that
next week you can do that.
And I'm like, oh, we're now talking in months instead of in a couple years. And it's just insane to kind of
and I think that pace of change, it can be really daunting. And I think the more that we can find ways to just talk about it, make it less daunting, less scary, more accessible for everyody. It's not just within an IT department or a specialized area. It really can be leveraged by everybody, and maybe not in the same ways, right? Some are going to be very foundational. You're just going to use the chats and like help me put together a resume that would show X, Y, and Z, to let's create this, agent that's going to help us identify where we can, how we do a better search within our database to find the information that we need. Those things are, going to be different across organizations and people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I really appreciate all the information that you've kind of shared so far. And if a company is out there going, wow, this seems like it would be really beneficial to join, what should they do and what are the next steps for them?
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. Really appreciate this opportunity. And for those that would love to learn more about the New North, you can go to our website. It's www.thenewnorth.com. And it has a bulk of the information about all of the different things we do, our different partners that we already have, our investors we already have, and the links are on there to become an investor. We have everything from really short or small $1,000 all the way up to $100,000 ranges, and it really just is a great way for people to be not only connected with other entities that is trying to strengthen our region, but really connects them as well to some of those different opportunities that we have for investors only. But, when you think about the top of the funnel, we want to be the top of the funnel that's making it as wide as possible for more people, more business, more entrepreneurs to be able to grow here. And then as people are coming in, we're helping to build those connections to our local partners, to our local organizations, to our local businesses with all those different opportunities.
I love that visual, widening the funnel.
Widening the funnel, accelerating growth.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for watching IT Unplugged. Make sure you like, subscribe, and catch our other episodes where we talk everything IT, cybersecurity, entrepreneurship. And we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks.